Leo was having a secret affair with my secretary. 10 years later, he unexpectedly discovered the son wasn't his. Clutching the paternity test, he flew into a rage, beating the secretary and demanding to know whose bastard it was. Little did he know, one sentence from me would leave them both speechless, a secret that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. I was on a date with a hot younger guy when Liam, my assistant, called, interrupting my fun. "Madam, there's trouble," he said, his voice practically deafening. "You need to come back. It's a matter of life and death. Miss Lotus is screaming your name." I laughed. This was new. Leo was actually hitting his mistress of 10 years? A decade ago, Leo and I were married. Sadly, my wealthy husband couldn't resist temptation and started an affair with my secretary, who got pregnant. He, the guilty party, had the audacity to blame me. "Do you think I wanted to cheat? It's because you couldn't have children." My inability to conceive became my original sin. From then on, our marriage was a sham. For the sake of the company, we maintained a facade of normalcy, each of us playing our own games. He had his mistress, and I had my toy boys. We never interfered with each other. Liam was practically stamping his feet. "Madam, this is serious. If you don't come back, things will get out of control." I swirled my wine, looking at the gorgeous guy across from me. "I'm just a neglected housewife," I sighed. "Leo and his lover are having a spat. Wouldn't it be rude of me to interfere?" Liam was almost in tears. "Mr. Charlie is going to kill Miss Lotus. You have to think of the bigger picture." "Mr. Charlie's troubles will ultimately affect you the most. After all, you and Mr. Charlie are still husband and wife in the public eye." I gave a cold smile, unable to argue. I dressed, giving the young man's handsome face a regretful look. "I have to go deal with something important. We'll play another time." Liam was craning his neck, waiting for me at the front door of the Charlie estate. Before I even stepped inside, I could hear the crashing of objects and Leo's enraged shouts. "Bitch! You bitch!" I chuckled. Weren't they the picture of blissful love for 10 years? What happened? Liam gave me a look that said I knew perfectly well. The staff looked nervous and parted as I walked through. The house was a disaster. Designer rugs were covered in shredded paper, expensive decorations were smashed, and even the appliances hadn't been spared. This wasn't just an argument, it was demolition derby. But the most terrifying sight was Leo, usually so refined, holding Lily's head down in the enormous bathtub, water splashing everywhere. He was radiating murderous intent, looking ready to drown her. That tub, by the way, was a custom-made piece that Pops had paid a fortune for. Seeing this, I immediately told Liam and the housekeeper to pull Charlie off. Of course, I wasn't worried about him. I was worried about the money, lots of money. Lily collapsed on the floor, her carefully applied makeup ruined, her designer dress clinging to her, her ample bosom heaving. She was a mess, yet somehow still managed to look pathetically appealing. I looked back and forth between the two of them, then at Charlie, his eyes blazing. "Domestic violence is fun, is it? Do you have to kill someone to be satisfied?" Charlie glared at Lily, a look in his eyes that promised a slow and painful death. Lily cowered behind me, then catching her breath, sobbed. "Leo, 10 years ago I wronged you, I know, but the child was innocent. How could you use such tactics to slander me and drive a wedge between Chuck and his son?" Her eyes were red-rimmed, her expression more pitiful than a kicked puppy. She clutched her chest dramatically, as if about to faint. Ugh, playing the Good Samaritan was getting old, and I was worried about getting bitten. I shrugged at Liam, indicating there was nothing I could do. "Looks like this is a job for the police." I turned to leave, but Lily, apparently having a brain fart, lunged forward and grabbed my ankle with her clammy hand. Looking up at me with her tear-streaked, woe-begone face, she croaked, "Leo, I know you hate me for betraying you, but I didn't want to. I was trying to help you. You desperately needed a child to secure your position, and the Chen family wouldn't have accepted you without one. I went to such lengths for you. How can you repay my good intentions like this? Good intentions, my foot. Lily's logic was so twisted it almost made me laugh. 10 years ago, my parents died in a plane crash. I was pregnant at the time, and the shock caused me to miscarry. The doctor told me I'd never be able to have children again. When the Chen family found out, Pops and Nana, instead of offering comfort, started giving me the cold shoulder. Pop sighed. The Chen family is a big deal. We need an heir. I'm not sexist, but my poor grandson. And Nana, who had always doted on me, put on a long face. Yes, my poor, unborn grandson, so tragic. And that wasn't the worst of it. When I was rushed to the hospital, hemorrhaging, my baby was only 6 months along. Before the doctor could even ask about saving the mother or the child, Nana started ranting and raving about saving her grandson. I couldn't believe that Nana, who had promised to treat me like her own daughter, would disregard my life for a child she hadn't even met. I was the one losing the child. Could they possibly be in more pain than me? Afterwards, Nana didn't even apologize. Instead, she doubled down, saying things like, "After all the good food you've eaten, still no baby. All talk and no action." Seeing my face darken, Victor tried to smooth things over. "Mom, there are plenty of ways to have children these days. The important thing is for Fifi to recover. We're not short of money. Medical science can fix her infertility." He put his arm around me and told me to cheer up. He even patted his chest and promised that while this child wasn't meant to be, the next one would be even better. "Don't you and Dad worry, you'll have your bouncing baby grandson." Hearing his macho pronouncements made me deeply uncomfortable. Why did it have to be a son? What if it was a daughter? What if I couldn't have children at all? Seeing Nana's expression soften and Charlie defensively taking my side, I swallowed my frustration, and so began my long and arduous journey through fertility treatments. Even though reproductive medicine was relatively advanced 10 years ago, it still hadn't cured my infertility. Coupled with my severe depression, the quest for a child only intensified my mental anguish. It drove me to the brink of suicide, and I desperately asked Charlie for a divorce. He flatly refused. "Having a child is about giving our parents an heir, Fifi. You're far more important to me than a child." His words warmed my heart, and I knew I'd married the right man. So, Charlie and I discussed adopting a child. Pops and Nana rejected the idea outright. Especially Pops. The Chen family fortune, painstakingly built over generations, handed over to a complete stranger with no blood ties? The Chen family has the status it does today, and you're the only heir to the Liu family fortune. Having children is about carrying on the bloodline. By not having children, you're severing our family's lineage. You'd be condemning both the Chen and Liu families. The weight of both families' legacies crashed down on me. I felt like a balloon about to burst, sending emails everywhere, desperately searching for a lifeline. An organization in the US replied, saying they'd reviewed my reports and estimated a chance of conception. Overjoyed, I immediately arranged a business trip to the States for a thorough examination. When the positive results came back, I was ecstatic, practically dancing with joy, and couldn't wait to share the good news with Charlie. However, I never could have imagined the surprise Charlie had in store for me. He and Lotus were in the throes of a passionate affair. Lotus was my college roommate. She came from a poor rural family and had taken out loans to pay for tuition. But she was resilient, hardworking, and a good student. I liked her well enough, and seeing her financial struggles, I often helped her out, even paying for some of her tuition. She was incredibly grateful, often tearing up and clutching my hand, vowing to pay me back. I told her not to worry about it. She was always thoughtful in return, fetching meals and hot water for me, even washing my socks. After graduation, thanks to my connections, she landed a job at Liu Corp. Chen Industries had been booming in the renewable energy sector for the past couple of years. Liu Corp was Chen Industries' largest shareholder. Before my parents' tragic plane crash, Chen Industries was just a subsidiary of our family's company. After I married Charlie, Chen Industries started receiving better resources from the group and gradually flourished. 10 years ago, when my parents' private jet went down, the company was in chaos. Pops, citing my grief and exhaustion after losing my parents and unborn child, offered to manage the company on my behalf, becoming the chairman. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Charlie whispered in my ear, "Don't worry, Dad can handle it. You just focus on getting pregnant." Meanwhile, Lotus, with her strong work ethic, was quickly making a name for herself at the company. Similarly, she kept telling me that Victor and Charlie were managing the corporation perfectly, and I shouldn't worry. "If anything happens, I'll let you know immediately. I won't let anyone hurt you. Right now, the most important thing is for you to take care of yourself and have a healthy baby, okay?" Her tone was so sincere, her expression so loyal, that I never had a shred of doubt. I was incredibly grateful. Grateful for a best friend who understood me, a caring husband, and in-laws who, despite any reservations, always put me first and helped me, so I could complete our family. Overwhelmed with guilt, I became even more determined to do whatever it took to continue the family line. I firmly believed that in such a loving environment I would recover and everything would go back to normal. In reality, I was hopelessly naive. When I excitedly swung open the bedroom door, clutching the fertility treatment plan, I was met with the sight of two tangled, inseparable figures. It was Sunday, and the house was strangely empty. I was wondering where everyone was when I heard unusual noises coming from the bedroom. Instantly, my blood ran cold, my legs trembling. Just as I was about to push the door open, the sounds from within froze me in my tracks. "Faster," Lily's voice, soft and sticky as honey. Then I heard a man's laugh. My husband's laugh. The man who had sworn I was more important than a child. "My love." He whispered in Lily's ear, "Say my name, baby. Call me Chuck." "Chuck," Lily purred, the room filled with the sounds of their lovemaking. "I'll give you a baby. Then the family will have an heir." "I don't want Fifi's place. I just want to help you and help Fifi." Before she could finish, rage surged through me. I kicked the door open. They were entwined, their bodies bearing the marks of their passion. Seeing me, their faces paled. Lily cowered in Charlie's arms. Charlie, after a moment of stunned silence, grabbed a blanket to cover himself. "Fifi, I thought you weren't back until Tuesday. I can explain. This isn't what it looks like," he stammered. "I know these past 2 years have been hard on you. The pressure to have a child." He rambled on, but I couldn't hear a word. The shocking image before me distorted everything. By the time I came to my senses, they were dressed, though disheveled, especially Lily, who threw herself at my feet, sobbing, "Fifi, it's all my fault. I just wanted to help you. You can't have children, so I can do it for you. Really, I don't want your place. I'm doing this willingly." She slapped herself hard across the face. "I should have asked you first. I just wanted to give Charlie, a child." "Fifi," Charlie said, "let's talk about this when you've had time to think." Before Lily could get up, Nana's voice boomed from downstairs. "Absolutely not!" Then Nana, usually the picture of elegance, came charging up the stairs at breakneck speed. She shoved me aside, grasped Lily's hand, and looked her up and down, making sure she was all right. Only then did she turn her gaze, like a laser beam, on me. "Leo, Lily's trying to help you, and this is how you react. You've had 2 years, and your belly's as flat as a pancake. You can't have a baby, And now you won't let someone help you? Lily said she wouldn't compete with you. Where are you going to find such a selfless friend? Do you really want to end our family line? You promised Pops you'd have a baby. A chill ran up my spine. My teeth chattered, and I felt faint. I stared blankly at Charlie. It was Charlie who promised to have a baby. Charlie mumbled, "Fifi, it was my idea." Nana, seeing her son's lack of conviction, redirected her fury at me. "Don't look at him." This was my idea. I made Charlie some deer antler velvet soup and talked to Lily. She agreed to help you, to carry your child. It's not ideal, so I kept it from you. You should appreciate our good intentions. Help me? What a condescending load of bull. I laughed, but tears streamed down my face. Mom, you're hilarious. I think Mom should be a modern woman, I said. Help Pops find 7 or 8 girlfriends, have 9 or 10 sons. Then we won't have to worry about the family line. Nana's face turned purple. She pointed a trembling finger at me. Charlie, however, immediately lost his composure. Fifi, that's completely inappropriate. How dare you speak to Mom like that? Before I could answer, Lily dramatically threw herself at Nana's feet, lifting her tear-stained, pathetic face. And it's all my fault. Fifi's just so upset, so confused, that she doesn't know what she's saying. I apologize for her. I sincerely apologize. Her overly earnest apology gave Nana a way out. Silly girl, don't be ridiculous. It's not your fault. Your kindness is being thrown back in your face. Nana helped Lily up, then said snastily, "Some people may come from money, but they have less class than a girl from the sticks. See? Girls shouldn't be spoiled. They become brats who don't respect their elders. It's a good thing my parents are dead. They'd be mortified." Before I could think, my body reacted. Slap! The sound of my hand connecting with her cheek echoed through the room. Everyone froze. Nana, snapping out of her stupor, was incandescent with rage. Her body trembled uncontrollably. "Chuck, she hit your mother. If you don't beat this little bitch and divorce her today, don't call me Mom." Chuck, furious, shoved me to the ground. "Leo, you've gone too far. We explained everything to you. Why did you do that?" He kept winking at me, mouthing, "I'm sorry, honey. We'll talk later." Nana wasn't satisfied. Chuck, using the excuse of taking her to the hospital, dragged her away. Nana never let go of Lily's hand. Of course not. Lily needed a checkup after all. She was much more valuable than a chicken that couldn't lay eggs. After they left, I was alone. The room filled with the stench of stale beer and sweat, making my stomach churn. Since there was nothing in it, I just dry heaved, then let out a bitter laugh. The smell of stale sweat took me back 10 years, overlapping with the present. Just like a decade ago, she was crying, kneeling before me. The difference was, this time she was putting on a brave face, trying to hold back the tears, making her seem even more pathetic. Such a brilliant performance, wasted on the wrong audience. I ignored Liam's meaningful glances and leisurely watched the drama unfold. Charlie's face darkened, the veins in his neck bulging. He cut her off mid-sentence with a sharp "Shut up. Where did you find this bastard? Trying to pull a fast one, ruin my marriage with Fifi, and even dream of inheriting my family's fortune? You bitch!" Lily's tears welled up, her face a mask of shock. Her lips trembled as she said, "Chuck, I've been with you for 10 years. When no one else cared, I was the only one who was truly there for you. I gave up marriage, my entire future happiness for you. Look at Jason's picture. He looks so much like you. That's proof enough. How can you say he's not our son? Someone must be behind this, jealous of Jason, trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't fall for it, Chuck." Lily never mentioned my name, but every word was aimed at me. I just propped my chin on my hand and looked at Charlie. Charlie, furious, grabbed a nearby vase and hurled it at her. She instinctively dodged, and the vase shattered against the wall, a shard grazing her cheek, drawing blood. Before she could scream, Charlie threw a stack of papers in her face. "Lies! Even now you're still trying to fool me, trying to pass off some random bastard as my son. You goddamn bitch!" He flew into a rage, kicking her repeatedly. Looking at the scattered papers, I saw they were DNA tests from different labs, different countries. The results varied between 20% and 30% probability. The final conclusion, in bold letters, not the father. I smirked inwardly. This was getting interesting. Lily picked up the papers, her eyes widening. "Impossible! This is impossible!" She looked up sharply at me. "Why are you framing me?" "Fifi, I'm the one who wronged you, but Jason is innocent. Whatever anger you have, take it out on me, but don't hurt my son. Please." She knelt again, kowtowing 3 times. I put on an expression of even greater surprise than theirs. "What are you arguing about? If Jason isn't Chuck's son, not your son, then whose son is he?" Charlie looked at me, his eyes filled with guilt. Lily suddenly stood up, her eyes blazing with venom, her face contorted in a snarl. "Leo, I know you're jealous of me. Jealous that I stole your husband, jealous that I could have Jason, jealous that Pops and Nana like me, jealous that I replaced you. I understand you want to destroy everything I have, but it's not like I stopped you from having kids. It's not my fault you're jealous of me. Jason is innocent." Such noble words, echoing through the room like the squawks of fighting geese. Things were spiraling out of control. Liam, worried I'd blow up and make things even worse, suggested, "Is there any chance the hospital made a mistake?" I said coldly, "She was in a VIP suite, with Victor and Nana present for the entire delivery." The pressure shifted to Charlie. Charlie stammered, "The baby had a birthmark on his left arm when he was born. It's still there." Lily's face went white as a sheet. She shook her head frantically. "Jake is Chuck's son. Chuck, you have to believe me. We can get another test." I chuckled. No number of tests would change the fact that the child wasn't Charlie's. 10 years ago, after discovering my husband's infidelity, my instinct was to divorce. But Charlie refused. He played the victim, claiming he'd been trapped by his mother, that I was the one he loved. He blamed family pressure and the expectation of an heir for his mistake. "You can't have children, and I haven't pressured you. I just made a mistake all men make. Can't you forgive me?" He used love as a shield, as if his love alone could absolve him of everything. Then, Lily came to me, sobbing hysterically, claiming she'd done it all for me, for my happiness. Chuck's happiness depended on mine, and I couldn't be happy without children, so she'd taken matters into her own hands to secure my happiness. She promised to give me the baby after the birth, and then I could do whatever I wanted with her, even kill her. Right. Her eyes kept flicking to the doorway where Charlie stood. This performance wasn't for me, it was for him. I couldn't help but laugh. The audacity of these two was astounding. "You and Chuck are a perfect match," I said. Charlie stormed in, yelling about how ungrateful and demanding I was. With the pretense gone, I threw the divorce papers at him. Charlie refused to sign. Victor refused even more vehemently. He made Charlie kneel before me and apologize, then whipped him with a belt, tears streaming down his face. He wailed about failing as a father and a husband, about the injustice I'd suffered. "But Fifi, what will you do alone after the divorce? Your father and I were best friends. I can't bear to see you left with nothing. Charlie is unreliable, but you still have me, your Pops, right? For my sake, let's put this behind us. As for Lily, I'll take care of her. She won't bother you again." I laughed. "Take care of her how, Victor?" He lowered his voice, his tone hardening. "Fifi, you're a smart girl. Be like water, and you'll thrive." like I was living in the Victorian era. "You were so eager for an heir, weren't you?" I retorted. "And you expect your precious grandson to inherit my family's fortune." My words hit their mark. Victor's face darkened. "Marriage isn't a game, Fifi. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. You won't get a divorce unless you leave with nothing." The mask was finally off. Faced with financial interests, family and marriage were nothing. I spat out my own ultimatum, "Then we'll see you in court." After Pops left, Nana arrived clutching Lily's medical report like a triumphant hen. "See? Lily's perfectly healthy, likely to get pregnant any day now, unlike you, who can't even produce an egg after 3 years. A woman like you, barren, isn't even a real woman." The memory of my lost child sent shivers through me. Nana, seeing my face darken, only laughed harder. "But it's all right, dear. As long as you don't divorce, you'll have a ready-made son, someone to keep you from dying alone." I threw my tea in her face. Nana shrieked and cursed. Seeing me about to hurl the teacup at her, others intervened. To avoid a family scandal hitting the tabloids, she was dragged out of my sight. In the days that followed, I often thought of my parents, my face perpetually stained with tears. The divorce proceedings were a disaster. It turned out Charlie's infidelity wasn't grounds for a favorable settlement in this state. Back then, I was no match for Pops, a seasoned manipulator. Charlie's blatant disregard for the proceedings only further eroded my spirit. It seemed the Chen family's sole objective was to wear me down. As if my life wasn't miserable enough, someone else appeared, pushing me to the brink of despair. It was Chuck, the son of the pilot who died in the plane crash. After his mother passed away last month, he'd found a USB drive among her belongings. It contained a recording. My divorce from Charlie was already all over the news, but Chuck came to me to reveal the truth about the crash. When Pops's voice emerged from the recording, I froze. He'd had his greedy eyes on my family's company all along. He'd orchestrated my marriage to Charlie while simultaneously using our family's connection to climb the corporate ladder. He fancied himself superior to my father and wanted to seize control of the entire Leo Corporation. I was just a pawn in his game. The pilot, too, had been trapped, saddled with a mountain of gambling debt. Pops gave him a choice, his life or his family's ruin. Benevolent Pops was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a master manipulator who exploited others' weaknesses to achieve his ends. Hearing this, I completely shattered. My miscarriage, my inability to have children, it wasn't an accident. I felt like I'd been thrown into an Arctic vortex, every pore pierced by icy needles. It was my own naivete that led me into Pops's carefully laid trap. He'd used his own son as bait, killed my parents, and robbed me of my fertility. Alone and helpless, I was left to wither away in the Chen family, while he pocketed the Leo Corporation. I was nothing but a marionette, dancing to his tune. The truth hit me so suddenly it felt unreal. The rage was excruciating, yet within the despair, I felt a strange sense of calm. I had only one purpose left in life. The Chens had destroyed my family. I would repay them in kind. I poured vast sums into secretly investigating every member of the Chen family. When I saw the dossier detailing Pops's colorful private life, I knew I had the perfect ammunition to script my revenge on this disastrous marriage. I glanced at my watch. It was almost time. I looked towards the door, but he wasn't there yet. Suddenly, 10-year-old Chen Jr. burst in. "Dad, Mom," only to stop dead in his tracks, horrified by the scene before him. Following close behind, Pops and Nana arrived, and Nana, upon seeing me, reacted as if I were the devil incarnate. Her usual elegant demeanor vanished, replaced by the fury of a fishwife. "You jinx, you're here to cause trouble for my son again? You were the one who insisted on a divorce, then you backed out. I thought you were so high and mighty. Look at you, gallivanting around. You're not even a real woman." As she spoke, Nana shielded Chuck behind her, as if I might do something to her precious grandson. Chuck, after giving me a dramatic eye roll, mimicked his grandmother, calling me a jinx. Lily, seeing her backup had arrived, rushed forward, sobbing theatrically like a scorned mistress begging the queen for justice. Nana's voice rose an octave. "You barren hen, you have the nerve to show your face in our house? Get out. Just seeing you brings bad luck. Ruins our feng shui." Nana's ability to twist the truth was, once again, astounding. However, I was no longer the pushover I was 10 years ago. Today was certainly turning out to be interesting. Nana, seizing the opportunity, berated me relentlessly, trying to drive me away. "Because of you, I can't hold my head up in front of my friends. Charlie, if you don't divorce her today, don't consider me your mother." Charlie, startled, quickly said, "Mom, you've got it all wrong. This isn't Fifi's fault today." His gaze, sharp as knives, landed on Lily. Unfortunately, Nana was busy signaling to Chuck. Spoiled rotten as the only grandson and heir to the Chen fortune, Chuck was used to getting his way. He scampered over to Charlie, whining for his dad to get rid of me so his mom could have my place. But Charlie's face darkened. He shoved Chuck away as if he were something unclean, spitting out a single word through gritted teeth. "Get out." Chuck, having never seen his father lose his temper, burst into tears. This broke Nana's heart. Mistaking me for the instigator, she lashed out. "You're trying to hurt my precious grandson for this hussy. Have you lost your mind? He's your own flesh and blood, my precious grandson." She comforted Chuck, as if he were the one who had been shoved to the ground. Charlie, losing control, yelled, "Mom, Chuck isn't even my son. He's some random kid Lily picked up somewhere, and she's been lying to me this whole time. If it weren't for the blood type issue that came up at the hospital, I don't know how much longer this tramp would have kept me in the dark." Nana, of course, refused to believe him, until she saw the scattered documents on the floor, revealing Lily's past, including her time as a hostess in college, and even records of hymenoplasty. Seeing pictures of Lily working as a bar girl, Nana was speechless. Lily snatched the photos from Nana's hand, clutching her arm. "No, it's not true. These are fake, they're photoshopped." Then, with a venomous look in my direction, she said, "Leo, it's been 10 years. I thought you were over it. I didn't realize you were so vicious that you couldn't stand to see our family happy." She turned on the waterworks, giving Charlie another heartfelt confession. 10 years, Charlie. Don't you know me by now? This was all Leo's doing. He's jealous of me, jealous of our son, so he's trying to smear my name so he can stay your wife and keep me in the shadows forever. He dramatically dropped to his knees in front of Pops. "Pops, you're the head of this family. You know right from wrong. You have to help me." He made sure to show off his injured knee. Pops leaned on his cane, looking at my smiling face. "This whole thing today, you orchestrated it, didn't you?" My smile widened. I clapped my hands. "The child didn't come out of my womb. How could I orchestrate it? You're so funny." Before anyone could react, I dropped another bombshell. Unfortunately, through some accidental investigating, I've discovered who the real father is. I gave Liam, my assistant, a look, and he escorted Chuck out of the living room. Of course, to make sure everyone understood the truth, I'd pre-recorded a little dramatic reenactment of the whole affair. The opening title card read, "Based on a true story, the Chen family bastard scandal." The story went like this. Lotus, driven by her ambition and a willingness to use her body to climb the social ladder, became Victor's personal assistant. Both Victor, the old fox, and Charlie, the young playboy, were fish in her pond. By day, she was Victor's efficient secretary. By night, Charlie's confidant. Lotus had that innocent look that men just eat up, and they all fell for her soft touch. Then, Lotus got pregnant. In the video, Lotus, holding a real paternity test, exclaimed, "Chuck is actually Victor's son." Well, the younger one is a bit of a dunce, the older one is much sharper. It's better if the son is Victor's anyway. I'm still the mother of the future heir to the Chen fortune. Simultaneously, I began distributing paternity test results confirming Chuck was Victor's son, one from a lab in the US, one from Japan, and one from the Chen family's private doctor. Lotus trembled with rage, her eyes wide, shaking her head. No, no, she shrieked, grabbing Charlie's arm, her head bobbing like a dashboard hula girl. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Charlie slapped her hard and turned to Pops. "Dad, what is the meaning of this?" Pops staggered back as if he'd been punched in the gut, but old habits die hard. He quickly recovered. "Yours, mine, what does it matter? He's still Chen blood." Before he could finish, a vase smashed against Pop's head. He turned to see Nana's face, white as a sheet. The blow sent him crashing to the floor, staring up at her in disbelief, his body twitching. Nana's hand still trembled. Silence descended on the room. Before Charlie could cry out, "Mom!" Nana collapsed, convulsing on the floor, her face a mask of pain and shock. It was understandable. She'd poured her heart and soul into raising her grandson, only to find out she was raising her husband's son. No woman, no matter how open-minded, could accept that. Charlie, caught between his parents, looked from one to the other, helpless. I walked slowly towards the incapacitated Victor, looking down at him. "Congratulations, Pops," I said, smiling. "A son in your old age. It's a shame there won't be a vast fortune for him to inherit. The board has decided to terminate your position, effective immediately. As for the shares, you were merely my proxy, so naturally you're not entitled to a single cent." "Oh, and that Chen family villa? Company property, wasn't it? The car, too, purchased under the company's name, I believe. Congratulations to the Chens on their newfound poverty. Victor, your youngest son, Chuck, can inherit your destitution." I filed my nails, a casual smile playing on my lips. "Pops, you've been nothing but a lapdog for the Leos all this time. Ironic, isn't it?" Victor convulsed, agony twisting his face so severely he couldn't even turn his head. Only whimpers escaped his lips, tears streaming down his face as if trying to say, "Impossible." Charlie finally snapped out of his stupor and stepped in front of his father. "I'm the one who betrayed you. I'm the one you should be taking revenge on." "All this. Was it because you wanted to help your dad raise his son? Should you call Chuck your son or your little brother?" I laughed until my sides ached. Charlie's lips thinned into a tight line. "I'm sorry for what I did to you," he choked out. My expression turned to ice. "A scumbag like you? Worth my time and effort? Don't flatter yourself. Just looking at you makes me sick. I did all this for revenge. Ask your dear father what he did to my family." Charlie looked back at his father, confusion etched on his face. Victor was utterly dumbfounded. I helpfully filled in the blanks, laying out the brutal truth. As the full story unfolded, Charlie covered his ears, reeling back in disbelief. "No way," he mumbled. "Impossible." Meeting my unwavering gaze, he turned to his father. "Dad, tell me it's not true." But Victor's expression said it all. Charlie collapsed, staring at his unconscious mother, his convulsing father, and the paternity tests scattered on the floor. Tears streamed down his face as he let out a hollow laugh. "Go big or go home," he whispered. After Victor died, Nana suffered a stroke that left her partially paralyzed. Charlie disappeared. Chuck, spoiled rotten and accustomed to a life of luxury, now faced a harsh reality. He lashed out at Lotus daily, calling her worthless and mocking her dreams of a big house and a fancy car. Lotus, unwilling to be burdened by Chuck, came to me. "I never had anything to do with Pops. There's no way Chuck is his son. It's impossible." I smiled serenely. "Indeed. The story about you being Pop's mistress? That was a fabrication. Lotus stared at me, dumbfounded. How? Because Chuck is Pop's son. With a gentle nudge, the realization hit Lotus like a bolt of lightning. The debt of gratitude was a lie. She had simply wanted to use me to climb the social ladder. After my miscarriage, I couldn't have children. Lotus saw her opportunity and, desperate to get pregnant, started fertility treatments. My private investigation revealed that Victor, fearing the Chen family line would end, had also explored sperm donation options. Though he insisted on using fresh sperm, money talks as they say, I orchestrated a little meet-cute for Lotus and Victor, resulting in the blessed union of their genetic material. Chuck. Who would suspect there wasn't an affair? Lotus held her breath. You and Charlie weren't divorced. Chuck is your adopted son. You're responsible for him. I produced the court documents. Charlie and I have been separated for 2 years, I said sweetly. The divorce was finalized, even though he didn't show up in court. Lotus gasped, her lips trembling. You and Charlie, you're already divorced? I arched an eyebrow. Yeah, 5 years. We kept it quiet for the sake of the company. Lotus, I continued, I really do appreciate you taking one for the team, rescuing me from that toxic marriage. And congratulations on finally getting what you wanted, the title of Mrs. Chen, a spoiled brat for a son, and a nana who's paralyzed. With every word, the fear in her eyes intensified. Thanks for taking out my trash. Enjoy your miserable, painful life.